A crisis brings together groups of responders that may never have worked together, nor may have they worked together in this type of disaster situation or previously become different responding types and working alongside different types of agencies. These different agencies will represent the different types of professions, and they will come from different levels of the government. Whether it be with the state, local, or other adjoining jurisdictions that may be included in the crisis events, when they are taking place and they are called upon for resources, there is a need to have interagency collaboration continue throughout the event. Depending on the different types of situations that may arise, there may be other parties that are arriving internationally to assist in the efforts. Thus, it is imperative to have good working relationships, not only with local jurisdictions, but also with international partners that might be able to help in the event of a true emergency. If we happen to be without resources and resources are going to be needed, these international partners will definitely come in handy during that time. Any event that there is a severe emergency, the incident command system will be in place, or the incident management system will be in place. This has been developed within the past 35 years in order to handle emergencies. And after the events of 9/11, Congress was able to implement the Homeland Security Act of 2002. Later, Congress mandated the adoption of the National Incident Management System, better known as NIMS, as the operating method for emergency responders at all different levels of the government. It is imperative for this system to work during emergencies in order not only to establish a firm structure during an incident, but also to remain as an open means of communication. Some of the incidents that we saw occur during the attacks of 9/11 were the failure of communications, especially with the incident command system in the Twin Towers, and this lack of communication from the outside to the incident command post located at the base of those towers. The terrorist attacks on the Pentagon during 9/11 also shows some evidence about the utilities of the incident command system and the potential of the National Incident Management System as an entity. It is important to understand how significant the damage was to the Pentagon in regards to the fuel-laden jet crashing into the west side of the Pentagon during that fateful morning. More importantly, the number of lives lost on that flight and who died during the attack, these are some areas that oftentimes are forgotten in light of 9/11. Good leadership, as well as the swift actions that were taken immediately after the plane crashed, shows the multiplicity of agencies, including the military and civilian personnel from other departments that were able to respond to this incident. Members within the community, as well as the public community stakeholders themselves, were also able to arrive on the scene and offer assistance in order to promote collaborative efforts amongst the people. And in general, it is important for the military, the police, the fire, as well as all these public agencies to work alongside one another collaboratively in these dire times. Another key element when responding to disasters or a terrorist event of great magnitude such as 9/11 is the need for leaders to determine when they will establish a unified command structure or to cooperate and coordinate with some of the agencies that may be needed eventually, such as your operational units and agencies who would have supplies to fulfill the orders that have been requested in order to facilitate this type of event. In regards to using other agencies and their logistical support, the main thing is to remember that local agencies will have to use their own resources first until they are exhausted, and then rely on other state, local jurisdictions, and federal assistance. This will be imperative for leadership and administration to understand that there may be a long waiting period prior to some of these resources arriving. In essence, the federal government suggests that planning and preparation should be for 96 hours and no less. In this designated event of 9/11, for example, in the attack on the Pentagon, operations for rescue and destabilization of the building and the scene and the crime scene investigation were all carried out in the site over a period of several weeks. More importantly, this type of event had shifted from over the unified command group corresponding with other firefighting agencies to law enforcement agencies. In order to determine the criminal and heinous acts that were committed here, thus this unified command system was imperative to function as well as fluid and communicatively as possible in order to understand the nature of this incident. The example that I just provided is of a terrorist event, but we also have to take into consideration natural disasters as well. One of the case studies that we'll be looking at is dealing with Hurricane Floyd and the emergency management system back in 1999. There are a variety of contingency plans that were already in place in order to protect the people and the property that were in the direct path of this hurricane. One of the most powerful influences during any type of disaster, whether it's going to be by terrorist event or natural disaster, is indeed the media. The media is able to disseminate the message to the public as well as to other people within the command post. It is of utmost importance that the command post proceed with transparency and allow the news media, particularly television, that can promote and provide massive coverage to an event and disseminate that communicative message to millions of people within moments. There could be other issues pertaining to them not being able to deliver a direct message. In effect, there is a lack of communication between the incident command post and the media, and the likelihood of the media disseminating that information and creating panic for the local community. Also, the incident command structure as a whole will need to be looked at deeply and scrutinized to see whether or not that incident command is actually telling the truth and being able to dispel the information properly to the community as well as the media. On the other hand, there also needs to be cooperation from the community based on the type of announcement that is being given. In this instance of the hurricane, there needs to be cooperation from the community concerning the evacuation and the mandates that are given regarding the evacuation. It is up to people that should be able to file and follow procedures regarding the evacuation to a safer environment. Also, it has been said that the incident commander, nor the government or local officials can actually mandate anyone from leaving their residencies against their will. This will be a decision made by the person, and that person will make that simple decision of whether to stay and shelter in place, or if that person decides to leave and vacate the premises based on the dangers from this type of event. One of the issues that happened during Hurricane Floyd was disseminated from the command post and dealing with the evacuation itself. The evacuation order was given because the thought of the hurricane impacting the coastal area may be sooner than later. But with the evacuation in play, much of the incident already taking place, there were thousands of vehicles that were in roadways, and the roadways became clogged with traffic, and the travel speeds immediately declined, even to a minimum capacity of 5 miles an hour. A combination of the press and the incident command release valuable information to the public in order for the evacuation to take place. What are some of the issues that are taking place with the incident command post? Maybe the non-participatory actions of the general staff and anticipating the massive exodus that took place for evacuating this area. Those who may have been listening to a radio broadcast or watching television stations for any tidbits of information may hear some of the information being passed along from the public information officers within the incident command. Finally, there is also the issue of people who may have heard the announcement about the evacuation, had been advised to leave the area, but decided to stay within their confines. This again goes to the person, the family, as well as those members who feel that it is necessary to shelter in place rather than be bogged down in a vehicle in traffic. In order to maintain order, it's necessary to provide pertinent information with locations, travel, any updates on the situation with the impending storm, and if there is ability to communicate with others that may not be impacted by the pending storm. The information with the press and the releases that they may have are more likely to not question the leadership should there be transparency and communication. It will be up to the incident command and formulating the after-action reports concerning the incident, thus being able to show some probable solutions to some of their issues that may arise. And in this case, there should be a revision considered for the evacuation routes, as well as the types of policies that were developed in order to evacuate people safely.